Morning. Good morning, guys. How are you doing? Feeling good? So it's welcome to Lisbon, first of all. It's very nice to see you all now face to face after 10 online sessions. It was quite a journey. Welcome to Lisbon. We are here around 50 people with different perspectives around energy, the energy sector, and how to increase the impact of youth in this sector, which is something that can be only just words, or we can try to actually put something into place and actually implement some measures around it. And that's what we have been trying to do over the last sessions, and that's what I hope that we get to materialize over the next days. Now, I would like to introduce, apart from myself, Guilherme Canavilhas, Tiago, who is the co-coordinator of the event, and the rest of the team. So I'll pass by the word to Tiago.
Hello, everybody. Thank you again. I know it's going to be a lot of thank yous today, but please bear with us for a little bit. Like Guilherme said, we are a group of volunteers. We are a part of EYEN, so the European Youth Energy Network. And all of these lovely people have been basically working for free to make this happen for quite a long time. And obviously, we need to appreciate them. We need to thank them. And I would like to introduce each of them. We have different teams here. We have the position paper team that we have all been building for the last 3 months. We have João, Vanessa, and Carla in the paper team, who have been on the online session. Yeah. We also have 2 more people who are coming here as we speak, Craig and Aneta. They will be here. You will be able to meet them as well. We have Margarida in the logistics team, so the one that you have been bothering to know stuff on how to come here. We have Joanna and Rachel on the communications team, who have been going crazy for the last few days. By the way, we also have Sara up there doing the streaming and making everything happen together with the people from Pavilion, and thank you very much, Vasco and Ruben as well. And last but not least, we have Jacopo, who is our Director of Secretariat and has been helping us with everything. And as he said, on his badge, it says IT, which goes for Italy, and also IT guy. Thank you, Jacopo. So thank you again for being here. I will give the floor to all of these very important people with very important things to do. I would like to say, obviously, I would like to begin by thanking Pavilion, and I would like to call on stage Ana Noronha, who received us here today in her home and made all of this possible. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you. This is really very, very inspiring. This is quite a good idea. And you know that now there are some parrots that escaped that were pets and that are perfectly acclimatized in Lisbon. This is not fun, really. This really shows that climate is getting warmer and that you will have very important decisions to do about energy, because we really have to change this. So until then, be very welcome here, and I do hope that you have a very fruitful activity, a lot of work here. I would like also to say hello to all people who are here with us from the Portuguese Institute of Youth, from the European Commission, from the Municipality, and of course from ADENE, who is the Portuguese Agency for Energy and who has been co-organizing this. I hope I haven't forgotten anything, anyone, but this is really because I want to welcome you all here. This is a house of science. This is a science center we often have here scientists. Right now we have some doing teacher training in other rooms to teachers who are going to impact other young people, younger than you, of course, because they are still in school, but it is very important for the promotion of science, scientific culture, and citizenship, because science is also about citizenship. Science gives a new eyes for any of us to see the world with other perspectives and being able to act on it and to work and to communicate and work together on things that really impact our society. So be very, very welcome and have a good work and also some fun. It's necessary to have fun in life. If you want to see the exhibition, you just ask my colleagues to cross the doors, to cross the gates. Right now it's about dinosaurs. You are a big too big for dinosaurs, but I am sure that you will enjoy it anyway, anyhow. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anna. So now, after this introduction, I would like to introduce Federico Barbieri, who is the president of EYEN, the European Youth Energy Network. Thank you.
Placing youth at the heart of the European energy transition. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today in the beautiful Lisbon to send an important message to all stakeholders in the energy sector. There will be no better place to do it in the Knowledge Pavilion, the Pavilião de Conhecimento. In fact, at the European Youth Energy Network we have a vision, a future where European youth lead the energy transition, have strong knowledge of the energy sector, are connected with other change makers and have the space to deploy their skills. But to achieve this vision, we need a direction. That's why we develop a set of core principles on meaningful youth engagement in the energy transition. And we are proud to share with you today. First, youth should be meaningfully included in decision-making. How? By enabling self-organized, legally mandated, well-resourced and accountable youth participation. Second, barriers to youth cooperation should be removed. We need to remove geographical, intergenerational, intersectoral barriers to fully achieve our climate neutrality objectives. Third, the value of youth should be recognized and leveraged, because organized youth groups represent a relevant stakeholder to be consulted, informed, and engaged. Fourth, no youth should be left behind, and this is very important, because when we talk about just transition, we don't have to forget that we are doing it from a privileged socioeconomic point of view. We need to think collectively, not just who we represent, our family, our hometown, our country, our age group, but also who we do not represent, other generations, other countries, other marginalized and underrepresented groups, people in energy poverty. Fifth, detrimental and suboptimal forms of youth engagement should be discarded. We don't have to be afraid to criticize initiatives that are not ambitious enough or that engage young people but still consider them a formality. Sixth, action on youth engagement should be monitored, evaluated and adapted. We believe in data-driven decisions. We need to initiate a massive data vesting effort to bring all youth and energy climate initiatives to the attention of the decision makers. Last but not the least, youth should have indiscriminate access to opportunities. We push for complete transparency in the dissemination of opportunities for engagement in energy transition to young people. And that's why we are here today. We organized the first European Youth Energy Forum, and we made it accessible to as many people as possible. This forum is streamed online. This forum is accessible to the youth in Lisbon, and most importantly, the forum has been made accessible by fully funding 45 selected young people from more than 20 countries, who are with us today, and work hard in the last 3 months to produce the position paper on the role of youth in the future of the energy transition. In the upcoming 3 days, we will focus on different key areas. On day 1, policy making, on day 2, education, on day 3, private sector. And on each day, we will ask ourselves, what's the role of youth? Which is a fair question, but it's not sufficient, because we cannot do this alone. Therefore, I invite you, governments, agencies, academia, companies, to ask yourself, what's your role? How do you provide support to youth organization? How do we together ensure a fair energy transition, not just for young people, but for everyone? But to conclude, I'll give you a first answer. So the first necessary condition is trust. The trust given by our sponsors, ADENE, GALP, and Ciência, Viva. Without you, we would not be here. AEF would not have happened. Second, the trust in the AEF organizing team, who managed to put together this event, again, dedicating their free time after working hours or at the end of their studying day. And now the trust in you, young and senior participants. The success of the first European Youth Energy Forum is now in your hands. This year, we make the first and hardest step to kick off such an exciting journey. It's a pleasure to have the European Network of Energy Agencies with us, and we are very much looking forward to continuing this journey with you and with other partners for the next editions. With your help, AEF will take place in other European countries and will become the largest European event of youth in energy by connecting young energy professionals, giving them a unified voice and bringing them together with relevant stakeholders of the energy sector. So good luck. Enjoy the first of many editions of the European Youth Energy Forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Federico, for the wise words. So now I would like to introduce Nelson Lage, President of ADENE.
Good morning all to Lisbon. Dear host and Noronha from Ciência, Viva, colleagues from the European Youth Energy Network, our partners of this journey, colleagues from the Lisbon Municipality, the European Commission, National Coordination of the European Year of Youth, dear speakers, representatives of other institutions also here today, my dear friend João Pedro Matos Fernandes, former Minister of Environment and Climate Action and responsible for the excellent results of Portugal in what concerns climate policy, and that will join us in a few minutes for his keynote speech. And most important, dear participants of this first European Youth Energy Forum. Don't worry, climate change is a problem that will only arise in the coming decades and will be solved by the next generations. I don't know if you remember this answer. This was the answer we all heard until very recently. Well, after all, climate change is here, it's here and now, and the next generations are here and now. It is likely that many of the next generation's decision makers will be in this room, and that even today they intend to have an active voice in energy transition. For decades, we have been saying that climate change is a problem of the future, and we have referred to young people as future leaders, future entrepreneurs, and future policy makers. But the speed of climate change anticipates this future, and today, yes, today we really live in a climate emergency. You, all of you, the 45 and much more, the young people of the current generations are called to find the solutions that many generations, my generations and previous generations, could not. You, all the young people, are part of the solutions. Not just as future leaders, that I'm sure that you will be, but as an entire generation that will have to work in search of new solutions to the problems that today put our survival at risk. It was because of thinking that young people really are the solutions, these young people, you, are the solutions, that ADENE, the Portuguese Energy Agency, when took over the presidency of the European Energy Network, ENR, wanted to put the theme of youth and energy side by side on its agenda for its term, 2022-2023 till February. This is also why we partnered with this new but very, very, very active network, the European Youth Energy Network, to organize this first European Youth Energy Forum together. I still remember the day that we talked during a lunch in a nice restaurant in Lisbon, and I challenged the network to organize this forum, and we were really way ahead to think that this would be so important and so actual and so easy to do it because this amazing team that you have. It is also with great pleasure that we have, as I said today, here 45 young representatives of various institutions from various European countries, more than 20, 30, I really don't know, because I was checking the list of all of you, and it's amazing. It's amazing how can we just bring so many young people that are interested in being constructive, in thinking on the future in a positive way, and give us ideas and suggestions. So it's really a pleasure to receive you all of you here. To finish and to present here in Lisbon an important position paper on the role of youth in the future of energy transition. Probably then we can share with all of the other youth that are around Europe and around the world, saying that nothing is being done. To achieve climate neutrality, we need immediately really a very profound change in the energy sector and a truly revolutionary energy transition that stakes on renewable energies. And I believe that is you, the young people, who can be the engine of this so necessary change. The current generations are the best prepared in our history. You are well informed, well traveled, digital and cultured. That is why you must from now on be part of public policy decisions and lead the energy transition. There is really no more time to waste. Time. There is no. It's really our last chance. We need you. We need your ideas. We need your opinions. We need your opinions in political decisions, in companies, in universities, and on the street. It's really time to act. It's time to join this energy revolution. It's time to join the future. Thank you very much, and wish you a really wonderful week here in Lisbon. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelson. So now I would like to introduce on stage Sofia Athayde, Youth City Councilor in Lisbon Municipality. Sofia will be speaking in English, but then I will do a short version of the speech in English. In Portuguese. Sorry.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Lisbon. Excelentíssimo Sr. Dr. Carlos Alves Pereira, membro do Conselho de Administração do Instituto Português do Desporto e Juventude e coordenador nacional do Ano Europeu da Juventude. Excelentíssimo Sr. Dr. António Vicente, chefe de representação da Comissão Europeia em Portugal. Excelentíssimo Sr. Engenheiro Federico Barbieri, presidente da European Youth Energy Network. Excelentíssimo Sr. Dr. Nelson Lage, presidente da Rede Europeia da Energia e da ADENE. Excelentíssima Senhora Professora Ana Noronha, diretora executiva do Centro de Ciência Viva. Caras e caros jovens e a todos os presentes, mesmo os que já não são tão jovens na idade, serão de certeza todos jovens de espírito. Em nome da Câmara Municipal de Lisboa, quero dar-vos as boas-vindas a este primeiro Fórum Europeu de Jovens na Energia. Na verdade, Lisboa, pela mão do Presidente Executivo, foi uma das primeiras cidades da Europa a implementar passes de transporte gratuitos para os menores de 23 anos. Foi uma medida que instituímos a pensar nos jovens, mas também no impacto ambiental. No próximo ano, 2023, implementaremos a isenção do IMT para jovens até aos 35 anos na compra da primeira casa. Queremos dar-lhes melhores condições para que criem família e renovem gerações na nossa cidade. Temos previsto para a área das equipas da juventude um aumento de investimento, reforçando as equipas, dinamizando as associações juvenis e o Conselho Municipal da Juventude. Para a Câmara Municipal de Lisboa, a juventude e o ambiente são, sem dúvida, áreas estratégicas e absolutamente prioritárias. A atual situação de crise energética mundial, aliada ao facto de estarmos em pleno Ano Europeu da Juventude, dão a este nosso encontro ainda maior relevância. Tenho a certeza de que sairão daqui novos desafios à Europa no acesso e no direito de todos os cidadãos à energia. A escolha da nossa cidade, Lisboa, para a realização deste encontro é sinal do reconhecimento do papel relevante que Lisboa tem interpretado na ação climática. É a confirmação de que a nossa cidade é exemplo no desenho de medidas e projetos catalisadores da transição energética, da neutralidade carbónica e da expansão sustentável das energias renováveis. E este tema é, aliás, um tema em que o Presidente da Câmara, Carlos Moedas, está particularmente envolvido e empenhado. Lisboa é uma das 100 cidades selecionadas pela Comissão Europeia pelo seu compromisso em serem neutras em carbono até 2030. Cumprir este gigantesco objetivo traz-nos um desafio árduo, exigente, mas, ao mesmo tempo, dá-nos uma oportunidade única que não podemos desperdiçar. A European Youth Energy Network, a Rede Europeia de Energia e a ADENE juntam aqui, pela primeira vez, jovens de vários países europeus, que durante os próximos 5 dias estão convidados a desenhar um documento com propostas concretas sobre energia e o papel dos jovens nas políticas públicas. Vai nascer aqui uma declaração que apontará um conjunto de medidas concretas e realistas que, no contexto da transição energética, favorecem o maior protagonismo dos jovens nas políticas públicas, na educação e no setor privado. Vai nascer aqui a expressão do que os jovens querem que seja o seu papel no futuro da transição energética europeia, que será dada a conhecer a entidades-chave em Portugal e na Europa. Vai nascer aqui um documento determinante e incontornável no futuro da reflexão e discussão em matéria de transição energética. E foi por tudo isto que quis muito estar hoje aqui, convosco, para vos dizer da alegria e do entusiasmo com que Lisboa recebe esta vossa iniciativa. Desejo-vos a todos um bom trabalho e muita, muita energia. Muito obrigada.
Thank you, Sofia. So guys, to say it very short, Sofia welcomed you all here in Lisbon. She talked about some measures that the Council has been implementing that was a pioneer, such as having free transport tickets for youth, as well as the municipality is also aiming to reach carbon neutrality by 2030. Is one of the 100 cities that has been selected for that. Apart from that, Sofia wishes you all a great work throughout these 5 days, and she's hoping that we produce a great document that we can then further utilize with other purposes. Thank you all, and I would like to introduce now António Vicente, Deputy Head of the Representation of the European Commission. Thank you, António.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you to Nelson Lage, the President of ADENE, for this kind invitation to the Commission representation in Portugal. It's really a great pleasure. I also have a colleague from the European Commission here with us today. And it's really fantastic to be with you this morning. I have to confess, I told Federico that I was not aware of your network, and I'm very impressed with what I've been reading. I read about the profiles of you as young leaders in the sector of energy. I was particularly interested with the fact that you are actually using this weekend, as it was mentioned before, to present a position paper, to prepare a position paper. I think that is really the pragmatic way to go about this, not just about empty words, but about collectively trying to find out what are the concrete solutions. And on my part, and on my colleague here from the European Commission, what I can assure you is that if you send that position paper to me, I'll share it widely with my colleagues in DG Energy, in DG Klima, in the European Commission, and for sure we will see what kind of ideas that you have that we can implement. So I really look forward to reading it. But working in the European Commission, the big challenge in addressing people like you involved in energy is choosing which topic to highlight, because energy is really at the top of the EU agenda. And this was before, even before this brutal Russian invasion to Ukraine, even before COVID struck with the European Green Deal. You know, the European Commission, the European Union was already fully committed, well above and beyond what other regions in the world are doing with combating climate change and accelerating the energy transition. But of course, today, with the energy crisis, almost every week we come out with a new proposal. I know some of you are following that very carefully. Some of you know about those proposals much better than I do, that I'm not an expert in energy. But indeed, almost every week we are coming out with some attempt to try to address the enormous impact to consumers, to companies, to all of us because of this brutal invasion. You know, from joint gas purchases, which we've been discussing a lot, to the protection of energy infrastructure after what happened in the North Sea. From regulatory changes almost every week to new deals with third countries to ensure security of supply. From new EU funds through Repower EU, where we are going to give more financial assistance to member states so that they can help consumers and companies and to deploy renewables. And we are also, for example, accelerating the permitting and the licensing schemes. These are the kind of concrete actions that we need. But because you know all of this kind of macro policies that the European Commission is doing, and because I only have a few minutes to address you, I wanted to highlight two projects that we have that probably some of you know, but probably most of you don't know. They are not going to change the world. They are not as important to solve the short-term crisis as the ones I mentioned, but I think they are very much aligned with your goals, with the goals of your network and the goals of this forum. The first concerns the Conference on the Future of Europe. This EU initiative was a citizen-led series of debates and discussions that ran from April 2021 to May 2022. It allowed people from all across Europe to share their ideas and present their policy proposals. Very much what you're trying to do as well in the area of energy. The conference used an innovative digital platform that received 5 million unique visitors, thousands of contributions, and we also were organized or involved in the organization of hundreds of public events. Some of you may have been in the European Youth Event, which gathered 5,000 young people in Strasbourg in October of last year. Then, 4 citizen panels, each with 200 people, selected 49 proposals, each of them with very concrete measures to address several issues concerning the future, our shared future. And those proposals were then presented to the leaders, exactly like we are trying to do with your position paper. We are very proud that around 1/3 of the members of those citizen panels were between 16 and 24 years old, so even younger than some of you here, although you're very young. And so I really invite you to look into this outcome, because it's not very well known. There was a lot of cynicism about this process. People didn't really believe that the European Union was really committed to hearing the young people. But now you have publicly available all those proposals, and now we can be held accountable for what we do in those. You are able to, all the citizens in Europe, all the people that were involved in this process now can really say, listen, we proposed this, you said you're going to do it, 2 years have passed, what have you done on this issue? And I think really that's the way to go. There are 2 proposals related to energy, one on sustainable energy and one on green infrastructure. So I really invite you to look into this document. It is an example of involvement of citizens, namely young people, in the decision-making process. The EU now has this responsibility, and I think you also have the responsibility of engaging in this process, because there is this opportunity to engage. The second initiative, even less well known, is the new European Bauhaus. This is about involving architects, designers, engineers, entrepreneurs in the energy transition. It is still relatively new, so not very well known, but most of you, I think, could potentially benefit from this initiative. As you know, the original Bauhaus movement in Germany in the 1920s and 30s was about bringing artistic and design excellence to mass production. The new European Bauhaus is about linking beauty to sustainability, also in that same production process. We want Europeans, we want all of us to choose the most sustainable solutions, not just for the sake of the environment, but also because they are the best, the most attractive, and the most functional products out there in the market. Through this movement, we are engaging with architects, which we didn't do in the past, with designers, with engineers, to place sustainability at the core of everything that they do. We're offering grants, organizing festivals, awarding the prestigious Bauhaus prizes to showcase this approach and reward the best examples of creativity for sustainability. Let me give you an example close to home. In this year's edition of the prizes, the winner in the category of circular economy, the Bauhaus Prize for Circular Economy, was actually a Portuguese startup called Replay. I wasn't aware of this. This project addresses the shocking fact that in Portugal alone, so imagine across Europe, 30 million toys are sent to incinerators or landfills per year, just in Portugal. Think about all those small things that now people give with McDonald's foods and all. 30 million individual pieces of toys that go into the landfills just in Portugal. So this project addresses this shocking fact, and it created municipal level communities, already 5 in Portugal, that collect all toys and then either repair and donate them, or, the majority of this, they recycle the materials. They also created, as a side project, an eco-design competition where university students could develop toys made from recycled plastic. So these are just 2 examples, the Conference on the Future of Europe and the European Bauhaus, of initiatives where the Commission gave citizens, especially the young people of Europe, a more active voice and a concrete role in the decision-making process, where we worked with citizens in solutions to accelerate the energy transition and combat climate change. We are doing it not with nice words, but with pragmatic, concrete initiatives, like what you are doing. In this, I think we are really aligned with the goals of your network. We both share the conviction that the energy transition and the fight against climate change are the defining struggles that we face. We both agree that the only way to succeed is to involve all, as Federico said, and we both agree that we can leave no one behind. I therefore wish you very productive days. I really look forward to reading your position paper. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, António. I think we're 2 great initiatives to be shared with our participants. And now, last but not least, I would like to introduce Carlos Alves Pereira, who is a member of the Board of Directors of the Portuguese Institute for Sports and Youth, and the National Coordinator for the European Year of Youth as well. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Federico, thank you for your kind invitation and for your all nice team. It's a real pleasure to share this opening session also with Sofia Athayde, the City Councilor, with Nelson Lage, with António Vicente, with Ana Noronha, important organizations that support this event. It is with great pleasure that I'm here today with you to address one of the major challenges of our modern societies, to address the energy transition in a sustainable, green manner. This pressing challenge, aggravated by the energetic crisis caused by the war in Ukraine, requires an innovation and integrated response. And for that, we need tackle it together with you, young people, in a consistent and participatory manner. I'm very pleased and honored by your decision to have this European Energy Forum here in Lisbon, in Portugal, and we have also a long-standing tradition in youth participation and the mission to integrate it, the youth perspective in all sectors of our society, and the energy sector is no exception. The participation of young people in our democratic societies is one of the main priorities assumed by Portugal at national and European level. A living proof of this is the recent Youth Sport Labs organized in Portugal, with sessions engaging young people in every single region of the country as part of the celebration of the 8th edition of the European Week of Sport. and considering that this year is also, we are celebrating, as you know, the European Year of Youth. The Youth Sport Labs intend to bring groups of young people from different social contexts together to discuss relevant topics for the sports sector and identifying conclusions for each topic to be discussed with experts in the third national forum of Sports for All. Youth participants debated area of sports in nature and environment sustainability, and also youth and sport, school, universities, and fitness. Later, at the third national forum, as I have already said, several specialists debated these topics with the youth representatives for each region of Portugal in the very similar way that you are doing during this forum. This is a concrete example, our action with regards to youth participation, which was also our focus at European level during the Portuguese presidency of the Council of the European Union in 2021. Here, I must highlight that the Council conclusions approved under the Portuguese presidency on strengthening multi-level governance by promoting the participation of young people in decision-making process. Recognize that young people express themselves in many and varied formats and geographic contexts, and such constitutes the basis on which youth representation and participation rests. Young people are affected by cross-sectoral issues that are related to the global political agenda, so it is vital to involve and associate them in the search of answers to social, environmental, digital, economic, cultural, political challenge in order to foster the democratic principles of representation. In this way, young people should be able to take control of their own lives, learn, have a voice in the process of building resilience, cohesion, inclusiveness, and climate-neutral, prosperous, fair, and sustainable societies. However, it is not enough to just talk about youth participation, but also to need to provide young people with means and space for their participation. This must be converted into a consistent and effective participation, that is, that youth participation must be translated in concrete results. I have to underline two important concepts in this moment. One is co-creation. That is understood that the development of policies that affect young people must involve you from the beginning. And the other, the concept of co-management, that translates the involvement of young people in the management process of institutions responsible for the implementing youth policies. That two concepts are our main landmarks to tackle the issues that most impact in your lives, and I think also it's very important in this specific topic of energy that you are discussing. We have several ways of youth participation in the Portuguese youth policies. We have very important and very active youth organizations, structures, such as the Youth Advisory Council, the Advisory Council of the IPDJ, and also the Youth Municipality Councils, as Sofia has already said, the Regional Advisory Council, and also two important youth organizations, the National Youth Council and the National Federation of Youth Associations. So I challenge you to share also your conclusions with these structures mainly the youth structures that I have already mentioned, because these two youth organizations have the power and the ability to force the politicians and decision makers to implement your suggestions. And finally, I would like to underline our full support to youth participation and inclusion in decision-making process in all policy areas. This is one of our utmost priorities for the youth sector, and hopefully some of the actions and activities I have just mentioned will serve as inspiration for the work that the young participants in this forum will develop today and in the coming days of this European Energy Forum. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Carlos. Before going to coffee break, which is now the time, just to do a bit of a wrap-up, I would like to take some words and think a bit about what was said. So either very specific things, such as the 30 million toys a year, if we multiply by 75, which is the European population, I think we can have an idea of all the waste. And also the challenge that Carlos was mentioning, I would like to propose two challenges. So challenges for the participants and a challenge for all the entities that are here represented. So challenge for the participants to make the most out of the event, make the most at these moments, make the most on the coffee breaks, because these are networking moments. These are moments in which you can do the bridge between making a position paper, concrete measures, and try to talk with these people here that represent the entities, and try to find a way to, together, implement these measures, or at least help on that sense. So, without further ado, I would like to mention that next we'll be having the former Minister of Climate Action, and now we'll be heading for a coffee break of about 20 minutes. And yeah, thank you all.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Hi guys. Is it on? Yeah. So yeah, nevertheless, I think you can hear me. So I hope you will enjoy the coffee break. Get a bit of coffee for the second part. So now I would like to welcome on stage the former Minister for Climate Action, João Fernandes. And I would like you to welcome him as well. So please come to the stage.
So good morning to you all. Thank you for the invitation. I do want to thank Nelson for this invitation. I was supposed to speak at 11:30, so I should have 1 hour to prepare my presentation. But when I came, they told me, go to the stage, and I took the floor. So, be welcome to Portugal, be welcome to Lisbon, and definitely there are big challenges around energy. And why? Well, energy is a support of life since ever. That's true. Energy, in the last 1 year and a half, when we talk about energy, normally we talk about the high prices of energy in Europe and all over the world. And yes, it's a problem and we have to fight it. But most of all, the big challenge for energy is that because energy and working on energy is crucial to decarbonize the world and to decarbonize the society. So this is really the big challenge. We can talk about a price, yes, we can talk about technologies, but most of all, we have to understand that 55% of carbon emissions come from the energy, not the energy sector. Yes, the energy sector is inside, but I'm talking also about transport, I'm talking about industry, I'm talking about buildings. And I won't talk about it today, but I think that it's really important to say this to young people, is that the other 45% of emissions came from products. So, came from what we do when we go shopping, came from everything that is produced in a linear way, unfortunately, in a linear way in the world. I insist I won't talk about it, this is about energy, but never forget, if we reach the year of 2050 being carbon neutral on energy, the emissions that we'll have on products will be much higher than the carbon budget at that time. So there are many other things that have to change. But yes, we have to do the best to use less energy. We need to be more efficient, and we need to always think when we need to spare energy. And definitely in countries like Portugal, where we have the luck of having wind, water and sun enough to produce 100% of electricity that we will consume coming from renewables, we have to do it. And it's really what Portugal has been doing. Last year, 60% of the electricity consumed in Portugal come from renewables. This year, I don't have the figures, but I think that it's impossible to reach that figure. And why? Because we have a severe drought caused by climate change, and water dams are responsible for more or less, well, almost half of those 60%. Unfortunately, when we talk about the solar energy, Portugal has a huge delay. We are recovering it. On wind turbines, we are in a very good position, also on water, but we are in the Mediterranean basin, and it's expected that in the near future we will have less water to produce electricity, so definitely we have to put our bets on the sun. both on solar farms and also in energy communities and in very individual solutions which could be almost as important as the solar farms. Of course, there's always a footprint. It's impossible to change from fossil fuels to renewables without a footprint. The gain is enormous. We will win a lot. Definitely we will reduce emissions, we'll have much more, the air quality will become much better, but there is a footprint. The solar farms have to be somewhere. It has to be discussed. It's never good for the views on the landscape, but we have to assume that this has to be discussed. Otherwise, we have to come back or to go back to coal, and no one wants it. Portugal stopped producing electricity from coal on 2021. We were the second country in Europe without nuclear, I repeat, without nuclear, to stop using coal to produce electricity. But it's normal on the newspapers and on the TVs, people saying, wow, Germany has already opened one coal power plant that they have. Why Portugal don't do it? The answer is easy. We don't need it. We don't need it. And what we say is that, unfortunately, in Spain, in Galicia, in the north of Portugal, yes, they reopened a coal power plant, but because they need it, we don't. We are in a much better position. So, we have really to put all our bets in producing electricity from renewables. It is really good for the commercial trade of Portugal. It's really good for the emissions, and it's really good for the price and to stabilize the price. If we only depend on renewables, we don't have to look to the spot markets every morning to wonder what is expected for the day. All the advantages are really on renewables. Portugal was the first country in the world to commit himself to be carbon neutral on 2050. The Prime Minister 1 week ago in Sharm el-Sheikh, he said maybe on 2045. We won't be the first country in the world to become carbon neutral. I think that in Iceland, in 3 weeks, they can be carbon neutral, okay? But in an economy like ours, it's really a big challenge. It means reducing, counting from the peak year of emissions, 2005, it means reduce 85% of emissions in 45 years. It's a lot, but we have a very good track record. We are supposed to reduce our emissions between 18 and 23% between 2005 and 2020. I repeat, 18 to 23, and we reduced it on 33%. So we are really in a very good position. It costs money to the people. Yes, it has. For you to have an idea, 17 billion euros between these 15 years. It's a lot. So I think that it's really unfair when the European Union talk about just emission, or a transition, a fair transition, so just transition, sorry. When the European Union talk about just transition, they only look for the countries who have done just a few or nothing. And they give money to that countries, like Poland, like Hungary, and they forget those who have already done the job. This is not fair. They can think that it's a fair transition, but it is not. It's really bad that you don't give a prize, even if it's a small one, to those who have already done the job. But this is what we have. And as it is very obvious that nowadays people are gaining money because the cost of renewables is lower than the cost of fossil fuels, and it was the opposite in the near past, now people are really gaining money because of it. As I told you, we are really committed to be carbon neutral by 2050, maybe 2045. Being carbon neutral doesn't mean zero emissions, it means that you have a balance between the sink capacity and the emissions that we have. But there are two sectors that they really have to be with zero emissions. The production of electricity and the mobility. Zero emissions. This means that all the electricity comes from renewables and all the mobility is electric or is zero emissions. And this second part, it's much harder than the first one. Because we are talking about habits, we are talking about changing the behavior of people, especially in the cities. The part of have zero emissions from the production of electricity only depends on the big companies. No, but it depends mainly on the big companies. When we are talking about mobility, we are talking about ourselves. I won't tell you the name of the city, but in Portugal, they are discussing that they should put a cap on the number of electric scooters which are on the streets. They never imagined to put a cap on the number of cars, but on the number of scooters, maybe it is important. So, in here, we are very conservatives. We have really a huge challenge in front of us. And I put my bets on my children's generation and not on my parents' generation. So please, look and think about it when you made your options. Of course, sometimes I go by car, many times I go by plane, I love to travel. But in the daily obligations, there's always a better network of public transport that we imagine, believe me. For those like me who are always between Porto and Lisbon, I really don't need a car. You don't need a car to move in those cities. You have trains to link them. And this is really important. And I do believe that your generation is crucial. When in Portugal we say we are going to be carbon neutral on 2050, and when we put this big challenge on mobility, we were not expected that my generation could do it, but I do believe that your generation could do it. So, thank you so much, and I hope that you have a very good encounter. Thank you.
Thank you. So, now, without further ado, we would introduce the first discussion panel. For that, we will have as moderator Cindy Berardo, that will join us and will introduce each one of the speakers. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the discussion panel, so don't be shy, please. And I will leave the floor to Cindy. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, hello to everyone, and good morning. My name is Cindy Berardo, and I will be moderating the panels for the next 3 days. I'm not an expert in anything related to energy, but I am a learner, and I think that we could always learn something or anything with people that we meet, especially younger generations, and I have kids at home, so I can't wait to learn what you guys are up to, so when I get home, I could educate them and give them structure. But as I said, my expertise is communication. So if my expertise is communication, I want to challenge you throughout the 3 days that I will be here with you. How many of you have taken pictures or made videos about today and posted them online? Raise your hand. Okay. So why did I ask that? Because this is the first European Youth Energy Forum, the first. So not many people know about it because it's the first, but we want to have many more. And how can we have many more? By raising your voices and letting people know what we're doing here today. Because it's not only about, you know, creating a position paper and waiting for it to get out there and to get to the right people. We can start making a buzz right now, today. So throughout the next days, I will be asking you every single day how many posts you made, and please do identify the organization and the sponsors, because that will make our voices even more heard, and you know, our networks can double and triple and get out all the information that we need, okay? So with that in mind, today we will have our first panel, and I will ask to come to the stage Elena Donari, Policy Officer in DG and our European Commission. Your applause, please. Alexandre Fernandes, Executive Board Member at ENS. Marina Alves, Head of Strategy, Planning and Policy at ADENE. And Miguel Mosca, Vice President of European Youth Energy Network. Thank you so much to all of you. And we'll probably start by the end. We'll start with Miguel. So Miguel, as Vice President of EYEN, can you explain briefly what EYEN is about and how it advocates for youth engagement in the energy transition and why?
First of all, thank you to everyone for being here today. For us, this EYEN is a gigantic milestone of having such a crowd, not only by influential people in the sector, but also by, you've come all the corners of Europe, which is one of our main goals and it's very part of our mission. I just will say that at EYEN, we have a parrot, but we are no parrots. We are young, but we are no fools. So the goal and the vision of EYEN is to bring the great knowledge of young people, to bring the great passion of making this energy transition that was just mentioned into life, into reality. A few years back, we were at the Clean Energy Ministerial in Canada, and that was actually when this idea came along. We were with a group of people, and we saw that next to us were the greatest young people from the best universities, from the best companies, creating their own companies, their own startups, leading the transition, but we were separate. We were aside. We were doing our own discussions, and nothing was really going forward. It was a great event. Nevertheless, we decided that for us, we have to do more, and this is why we decided and moved forward with a very amazing group of people to continue working with EYEN. And I hope that answers the question.
It does, it does. Thank you so much. So actually, what you did was take action, not just only think about something and just leave it there, but actually move forward and get together a tribe of people who were going the same way and can put something into place. So, Elena, this question would be for you. What is the role of the European Commission and DG ENER in particular in terms of ensuring an effective youth engagement in energy transition policy-making process?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for the invitation. I want to thank the forum and all the Portuguese sponsors that made this event possible. And it's really commendable that you are actually spending your weekend. I understand that you have a variety of profiles, but you certainly engage with your studies or the start of your careers. So you found the time to be here and together on these very important challenges that we have. And I thank you also on behalf of all my colleagues. I represent DG Energy, the Director General for the energy policy in the Commission, but the message is also across all the directorates who are actually working with us and that we need. And I also understand that I'm actually speaking already to an informed audience, an audience which is, you're kind of a core group, you're already engaged, and you actually have the challenge to engage further your fellows and other young people in Europe. And I think I would actually take this challenge as a common challenge that we have. So, especially in recent years, energy policy has been a lot about engaging, let's say, European citizens. And in fact, you know, the main framework that we had in energy policy, maybe you're familiar with, I start with a clean energy package for all Europeans with consumers at the center. And then even more recently under, you know, the current commission, we have a Fit for 55 package that has just transition actually as an overarching principle, with the idea that really no one has to be left behind. These are actually the principles that are orienting our policy, and I would say even more recently in the current energy crisis context, we actually need the support, the engagement of every citizen for the actions that we are called to make, in particular in the months ahead through winter that you heard already. I don't want to repeat myself. In terms, we encouraged to also change some of our behaviors, not only because of the energy policy and climate objectives that we have, but also for the emergency that we have. We are asked to reduce our demand. We are asked to be to look for you know, other solutions and energy efficient solutions. We are asked, as I said, to be more careful with the energy we consume. And in terms of opportunities that DG Energy in particular is offering for participation, and the participation that we offer through these two examples I'm going to mention is actually an opportunity for co-creating the type of events and discussions that we have every year. We have two in particular. One is the European Union Sustainable Energy Week, and I understand that also the network has been part of that this year. And also in a few days in Dublin, we have the tradition to organize the Citizens Energy Forum, which is actually a forum, and we have a representative from your network in the opening panel with our commissioners. So this is the forum where we, throughout the year, we engage the main stakeholders, but any relevant actors that want to engage with us and to discuss what are the let's say the urgent issues and the topics on which they want to influence, and they want to also be part of our, let's say, designing a proposal or the monitoring and implementing of the work that we do. And then we have this opportunity to gather all together in Dublin, especially this week. It's also streamed online if you want to watch it. And so this is another opportunity that we offer every year for engagement. The last point I want to make, I come from the consumer unit, which is actually recently established unit in my Director General, and I also want to encourage you in the 3 days you have ahead, writing your position paper, to think about your role as yes, young people, but also as consumers in our society, because I think you understand how the current crisis is also impacting, you know, the overall economy. We're not talking only about energy, and how also as consumers you have the power to create change, be an agent of change, as we are encouraging every citizen currently, from the Commission side. A last point, I really like what I heard this morning earlier about the intergenerational dialogue. I think especially in the energy transition and also for the pace that we are called for making changes in the current crisis context, it's really, you would have a key role also in encouraging other generations in our society to connect, and also a role to let them understand better some concepts, like especially when I think about the digitalization of the energy sector that maybe are distant from them. So I would encourage you also to reflect on that in the coming days.
Thank you, Elena, for sharing that. And you got to just love the word co-creating. It's one of my favorite words. So now for Marina. Marina, why is ADENE invested in creating dialogue about the importance of youth in the energy transition and being in an event like this?
Absolutely. Good morning to all. It's a pleasure to be here. ADENE is the Portuguese energy agency. We develop activities in the public activities in the area of energy efficiency and water efficiency. It's really a pleasure to be here with this younger audience. It's really crucial, these events. It's a great opportunity to create awareness and to try to reinforce a more effective engagement from the younger public to the subject of energy, climate change, and the decision-making processes of all of that. So this is really important to ADENE, and I hope this event inspires all people here and present at home as well.
So the way that energy is being produced, consumed, and distributed has changed a lot. And I would ask Alexandre, so ENS recently changed from National Authority for Fuel Market to ENS, National Identity for the Energy Sector in Portugal. Does this imply a new direction for the future, considering younger generations?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. And let me first say thank you to ENR and ADENE and to EYEN for this event. ENR, in fact, is an organization that I'm proud to be part during my journey in my last years in ADENE, in fact. I had the opportunity to share the network with different people, and I would like to thank you, Nelson Lage, for the dynamics that he had created in this organization. Basically, this organization is about people, and the youth that we have in this auditorium is, in fact, a key point of what we are doing. The legacy that our generation, my generation, is giving to yours. I would say it's a big challenge. It's a good opportunity. It's not anymore a big problem, I think. I think it's a big opportunity. We had started the change, but definitely your turn, that you are basically a key component on the current society is crucial. Yes, to respond to your question, the fact that we change from oil-based activity to energy-based activity is part of this change. ENS is the entity that has in Portugal, is a public entity that basically had the role of manage oil stocks, safety and security oil stocks. So that was basically the reason of the previous name and basically key matter of the entity. Right now, the change that we are doing is to pass from the good old times of oil are gone, or we want that they are gone, and we want to bring energy as an overall concept, which is crucial for the decarbonization that we are progressing and that we are doing. In fact, the keynote speaker has a big responsibility. Perhaps in this room is the person that made in the last years more for this decarbonization. The decision of taking coal from our energy mix was his decision. It was not an easy decision in that time. Many people were saying that would be a nightmare. Imagine the electricity production without coal. It would be even a big issue. And the facts prove that if you want, if we have the commitment to do it, we can do it. We did it. In fact, the decision that we took in the last 5 years, perhaps the key decision for the decarbonization was exactly that. Because coal was having still, I would say, a very important part of our mix. It was not the bigger one. Luckily, we start a renewable energy progress and development some years ago. In our electricity, when we have a good annual year of rain, wind and solar, we can say, we can claim that we are close to 60% of our electricity being produced by renewables, although in some years where rain is not in fact part of the component as it should be, it's an issue. And this year, in fact, it have been a big issue. But even without a good year of rain, we are doing quite well without coal. And that was perhaps the key year to guarantee that that decision was right. And it's a big surprise even today, and sorry to go a little bit further into your question, but it's a bit a surprise to see that we have still in our society, economic and social society, and some political society, people that are thinking that it was the wrong decision. It's now a moment to come back with coal and bring it again to the mix because whatever. There is all the time a good reason to go back and start redoing what we did in the past. Well, sometimes we need to go to the basics and see that these changes, when we do a step change, and for example in our case, the question that you made was exactly a step change. When we decide to not be an oil company and be an energy company, to manage not oil but energy stocks, it's because we need to have all the time the security of supply. The security of supply of energy is an issue, is an important matter of the matrix, because of course if we are based on coal or oil, you have it in a shipyard in a few weeks in your ports, and it's easy to solve it. When you are talking about renewables, you need to be more creative. You need to give more time to the subject, and that's what we are doing. That's the change that we are doing.
So I actually wanted to go back to you because you mentioned that Europe is moving towards decarbonization and carbon neutrality, and the roles of institutions such as EYEN has been changing. So how can you involve youth in the conversation about the future of these types of institutions like yours?
It's a good question. I think the very first thing is bring them into the company. We need to rejuvenate our staff. That's crucial. Not because the older people are not having new ideas. No, because the challenge that your generation bring to the table, bring to the discussion, is out-of-the-box approach. So when you are having people from the outside, you are looking to the box, not from the inside, but from the outside. And that's the crucial thing. And that's the key point. We need to take the risk of involve young people on top levels of the company. Sorry to repeat the words, but it's crucial because that's the moment where you really challenge the organization and challenge what you are doing every day. And that's part of the change.
Thank you, Alexandre. Miguel, would you be up for that challenge? So how do you see youth contributing to the future of crucial public entities such as EYEN?
I was expecting the follow-up, right? I think it's again, very important. One thing that you just said was that you need this new stuff in the company, right? So it's not that the people that you already have are not amazing, but have been working with the same thing on a different landscape for many, many years. And it's a different challenge, right? So it's a different challenge, and sometimes you need some new ideas, you need some fresh blood into your organization to define the status quo, right? To go against the status quo and be able to say, no, this is not right. This maybe would be this way, would be better. This can be in everything. It's not only in the energy sector, right? But it's a good example. I'll go a bit back and give another example in the general level, not just for Portugal, but in case of also other, let's say, energy stock companies, institutions in Europe. So I live in Germany, for example, as you may imagine, is one of the countries at the moment that is fearing more with this, energy crisis, with the invasion in Ukraine and so on. And there's a problem, of course, in the social media, in the media, not the social media. Media started to say to people to stock up for up to 10 days at home of food supplies, because we might have shortage of energy, we might have blackouts, right? So it's a completely different scenario. So when you say that Portugal is in a lucky situation, it's indeed when media in a country like Germany comes and say, hey, please stock up at home for 10 days because you might have a blackout. You know that you're talking serious thing. Of course, media likes to make the buzz, right? But there's no, let's say, smoke without fire. And another level, youth, in this case, it's important to bring and to explain to people what's really happening, to be the voice and not allow, not just fake news, but also allow the reality on what is happening and why this is happening. And also help on the decreased energy consumption, right? So because youth at the very beginning of our lives, we have less attachment to things, right? Most of the young people don't have a car. Most of young people are more prone to travel by other means of transport. The different level of commodities is not the same. So it's to give the example that you can do more with less as well, right? We don't need so many cars, we need so much fuel to have good quality of life. So I think youth has two parts in this challenge. Part number one is to show to society that we can do it. We don't need to have so much, and we can do more. The second part is to bring to the older institutions that already are doing a great job by changing, this name, and it's part of the future, is understanding that the future will be different and we have to adapt, and to be the strength, to be the leg power, to be the force of this adaptation. And that's a very good opportunity, not just for youth, but also for organizations to take part of this and to take advantage of us all of here today.
Probably, Elena, so I would probably ask you the same question. How do we ensure youth representation within public institutions in the energy sector? It looks like an advantage to me.
Yeah, and actually before answering, I would like also to mention that this is somehow in addition to the traditional avenues of active participation, that is also being active in your community as an elected representative, because I think, there was a city councillor before. We also need, I would say, more young people also entering public jobs and representing their communities and constituencies. So in the Commission, we talk about the policy cycle, and traditionally it's about, proposing initiatives, programming, and also verifying implementation and monitoring. And I saw already from your ideas for your position paper that you also would like to engage into this type of, let's say, a cycle of policy with your constructive ideas. That certainly we are open and very much looking forward to hear. And also, in the Commission we have also established ways to engage with citizens, but your views are obviously, they should be also, I think, taken into account and being transparently communicated also in terms of what type of impact you can have on policies. Our policies are actually reflecting your views, and how youth-centered as we said before, co-created, we can be in terms of also proposing policy and again implementing together and also monitoring. I would also encourage you to reflect how you can also help us monitoring better if the policy we propose are actually addressing your needs and they're reflecting your views. And finally, again, with the view of the context we are working in, which is a crisis context, and although we have a set of policy and a vision, which is also reflected perhaps at the national level in your strategic national energy and climate plans. So we have new challenges, a new situation to address. So obviously fresh ideas, different solutions, and also a different way to think and to find solutions. It's always it's obviously welcome, and I'm here actually, and we are here also to learn from you, and finally also to build a more structured and trusted relation both ways.
So yeah, fresh ideas that many times don't feel like they're close enough to the governments, for instance. And Marina, so many times it does seem like young people do feel distant from the government and more so from Europe. ADENE works as a bridge between government and citizens. So how can ADENE and other energy agencies contribute to engaging youth in energy?
Well, I may start with, at ADENE we are more than 130 workers. More than half are women working on the energy field, and 10% are young people, up to 30 years old, if this means young. Because the bridge is not clear. So we are making our own path. It's an ongoing process, and every institution, company, whatever, should be thinking about this. We work very closely with the citizens, with different target groups, but one of them is the young people. And it seems appropriate to mention here a project that we have, which is called Rota de Energia, or Energy Route in English, where we work with schools across the country, and we work with young people, of course. We talk about energy, climate change, and other subjects. So we are creating awareness and training these young people, and maybe in the future, in the near future, I hope, we can involve them and making public policies with them instead just for them. Involve them, discuss, and create here a more robust society towards this reinforcement of Portugal's at the forefront of decarbonization and energy transition.
So speaking of policy making, I would ask Miguel, what do you think needs to be done in terms of encouraging youth to effectively engage in energy transition, especially when it comes to policy making?
It's a very, very important question, and I think a very hard one to answer. Just for the simple fact that if we knew the answer already, it would be working, right? We have people here that are very interested in this in this goal, and we have a long run to go. Outside, actually, we were even discussing with some people at the coffee break something that I believe to be the key fact of how young people are involved in the policy making from the very early stages, from these root organizations that are just creating the awareness. Going out on the streets and showing, what's happening, demanding things, right? This is important. I was calling it the creation of the wave. But then youth, we have we are in Portugal, so I'll use this expression. We have to surf this wave, right? So we have to be there and we have to propose concrete measures. We have to show, and I think today is a great example on how we can be involved in the policy making. Bringing our ideas, bringing our voice into something tangible, to something concrete, right? Because everybody can say, hey, no more emissions, no more fossil fuels, no more gas. Yeah, next day we have blackout, right? So we have to be aware of our contributions, and for that, when it comes to meaningful contribution in policy making, is bringing the right people together that we have, right? That are here, that are in many countries in Europe, and creating tangible outcomes. Of course, we need the openness of the institutions, right? So we need the openness of the National Energy Agency. We need the openness of the government, the national government. We need the openness of the European Commission. We need the openness to be heard at the boards of these bigger companies, as it was mentioned, I think, overall in this morning, because someone has to listen. So if you write this position paper, and if you write this position paper, and nobody reads it, and if you go to, let's say that we come on stage for the European Commission, and then, at the end, congratulations, very nice position paper. Please put it on the folder. See you next year. This again is not what we are here for, right? So we need it's a two-part process, right? We need our ways of pushing things forward, of presenting it, and at the end we need also the reception from the other side to listen and to use what we are providing, which in terms of money would be actually very costly to have. The amount of talent here, the amount of work, if we actually would pay for this would be crazy expensive for any institution. So my final remark is, please do take advantage of it, right?
Thank you, Miguel. And Elena, I hope everyone at the European Commission loves to surf, because these guys are going to send out some massive waves your way. And I would like to ask you, in terms of the energy transition policy-making process, is that policy being made not only for the youth, but also with the youth? What are your thoughts?
Well, I would say that, okay, of course there is a lot of work to be done. I'm not hiding that despite offering opportunities for engagement, perhaps also speaking with many of you, the impression was that you felt not involved, especially from the early stage of our planning. And I think an event like today, it's a good start. I see that you have also a clear vision of how you want to engage, and this is really commendable. What I think it's perhaps that particularly in energy, maybe we are missing data and information, especially relating to the situation of young people in different areas. We can get them perhaps through projects we funded. I'm talking about the European level. I don't want to say how is the situation in the different national contexts. So certainly, perhaps hearing from you and getting this data and information from you, and especially also from the projects that perhaps you want to get involved, that would be very helpful for us, for our work. And apart from the opportunities that I mentioned before, we can also think about others, as mentioned before by the Deputy European Commission representation, which are our closest, let's say, avenues to the European citizens. And please get in touch with all the European Commission representations that we have across Europe, also to engage with them. Or to solicit engagements from their side. I would like also to pass an invitation to come to Brussels, where I can assure that you will be heard, and once your position paper is ready, and especially we will create an opportunity also to engage with more colleagues, just myself. And I'm also here all day. I want to say, if you want to enter more specific discussions on certain topics, also to perhaps help guiding your reflections these days.
Thank you so much, Elena. I just want to mention, Elena said she will be here all day, but I think everybody knows that all of us have LinkedIn profiles, so you could carry on the conversation later. If the 45 of them don't have time to speak with you today, right? You'll be open to accept their connections, right? All of you will. Say yes. So thank you so much for that. Marina, have I been calling you Mariana? I probably have. Okay, Marina. Marina, so it seems like we all want a swift and just energy transition. So I would ask, and as a closure, I would ask, what is your advice to young people who are seeking to have their voices heard?
Well, this is a challenge answer, but it's very personal, personal suggestion. If we start with the academic side, I would suggest to search for a course that brings together the energy and the public policies. It's not easy, but it should be out there. Because if you become an expert, you can, now on a very more practical side, you can explore this, you can become an expert, and you can maybe, well, pursue a career where you really want to make a difference. It should be applied to all careers, of course. It may be a cliché, but if you do what you like, it's halfway to your happiness and to your success. So if you have this background, this knowledge, and if you can ally it to maybe join EYEN or other network that is already installed and has well, webs that you can reach several countries, several stakeholders, you can have a mix and maybe be heard. And you can leave your footprint on your subject of interest. So it's up to us all, us here, and to you to create value and to leave your footprint on this energy field, on this climate change, policy-making processes. So that's why really these events are so important, and this being the first one, I hope this inspires everyone to make, well, a good paper for first, and then to promote the participation of youth in this decision-making process.
Thank you so much, Marina. Alexandre, I asked Marina about an advice to the young people who are, not only the ones who are here, the ones that are also watching our live stream, and I would like to ask you, what's your advice, not to the youngsters, but to the governments of the European countries in terms of youth engagement in the energy transition?
Well, it's the advice is keep doing. There is a process going on, but we need to speed up the process. I think that the crisis that we are having on these last 4 years are some of them are unique. Your generation didn't saw a war in Europe. Well, you saw, but perhaps you don't remember. In my time, in my generation, we had even in my generation, we had a hardest time and a difficult situation of war in the former Yugoslavia, and basically all the countries that we see right now on that area during the 90s were experimenting a terrible time in war. I remember that time quite well. Right now, what's happening right now in Ukraine and Russia, in Europe, in fact, it was something that we were not used to, and perhaps it was one of the big surprises during the last years in terms of European process. I can imagine that the challenges that the younger generation are having right now on those countries, not only on the Ukrainian part, but as well on the Russian part. I would say that the big advice that I give to the Russian government, if I can do that, and to the Ukrainian government is start thinking on the young generations, because you are perhaps creating an issue similar to what our grandparents had created during the Second World War. And over there we are destroying a country, a large country. We are perhaps destroying not one country but two countries, because in the other side of the border things are getting, I would say, on a difficult situation, quite sure. Of course, in the other side, in this side of the border, or in the Ukrainian side of the border, the young generations are suffering much more, I would say, than in the other side. But I can imagine that the other side is also an issue. So the governments right now, they must think on what is going on, not only thinking on the present situation, but the impact that this will have on your generation. Your generation perhaps would have right now a big challenge, which is almost from scratch, recreate a new economy in a European large country. And this is I would say, since the Second World War, is, I would say, similar to what happened to the younger generations when they faced the end of the Second World War, and suddenly the German young society was facing a country completely destroyed and starts from scratch. In the energy front, start from scratch is sometimes an advantage, because you can rebuild on the right way. And right now, I would say that the big challenge that we are having is about environment, is about climate change, and is about energy. And we should not forget the education component. I would say that if you want to create a real step change on this front, on these areas, we need to learn to communicate better with young generations in order to involve them, in order to make you part of the process. Of course, right now you are still in the comfort zone. You can say that you are not on the stage, you are not on the key parts of the stage. I would say that you are already on the stage, but perhaps not on the front part of the stage. You are still having, let's say, a situation where you can be still talking and still making the point and still not sometimes have the capacity or the possibility to do it. Perhaps right now we need, as people that are right now on charge of the front stage, we need to open the stage, start bringing you, because the fact that we need people, young people doing, to speed up the process is crucial. Right now, things like we were talking about that, for example, on the energy front, one of the big issues that we have right now on the decarbonization is that my generation, my grandparents' generation, they were used to sync mobility with a car, refueling the car, basically increase the power of the engine, increase to be more large the car, and that's part of the change that we need to do. Your generation, perhaps you are not giving sometimes the possibility of these old-fashioned things to keep going and still doing a key part of the economy. And right now, for example, on mobility, when we think that 90% of the products that we are using in our mobility are still carbonized, are still oil or related oil products, we need to change all these. Of course, the electricity mobility is a part of the game, is a part of the process. But once again, it's a concept mind change. You need to think on a different way when you are talking about electricity cars, because you cannot think that you can do a one-way trip of 500, 600 kilometers with almost non-stop. It's an issue. Of course, technology are right now going fast, and we can say that in a few years it can be possible. Although we have right now this kind of mind change to change the world. The decarbonization process is ongoing. I believe that this situation that we are facing, especially after this COVID situation, which was also a new thing, a new experimented thing. In fact, your generation right now has that experience. For the very first time, you face a worldwide epidemic. So it was, I would say, for many years, an important thing. In fact, we had in the last 4 years or 3 years, 1 year that almost all the world was on a saving mode. 2020 will be for sure recognized as the year where decarbonization, I would say, had the key year, because basically in that year, we reduce our mobility, we reduce our sometimes energy needs in a certain way that perhaps we would not have many years like that. Luckily in terms of health, or luckily in terms of economy or social activity, we will not experiment that big issue. But we need to be prepared for that, because perhaps that's one of the big challenges. We need to accelerate the decarbonization, and with this, let's say, worldwide approach, we need also to be ready to face things like we face in 2020, because they can happen, and that's one of the challenges, I would say.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We have some time for Q&A, so I was hoping, okay, do you have a microphone? I see a lot of hands up, that's great. So Guilherme will come to you with the microphone.
Who had the hand?
So hi, could you please tell us your name and what country you're from?
Yes. Hello everyone.
Hi.
I'm Zorana Antovska and I'm from North Macedonia. So here is my comment and here is my question. Because you mentioned a few times that youth from every country should be involved in this process and co-creating better future, do you have any ideas how can you help these countries that are not good in energy transition? Can you offer fund help, administrative help, or technical assistance, or all of this? Because I'm not asking this just about Portugal, but for all the countries that are better in energy transition. Because we can't speak about involving youth in energy transition if we can't have a good basis for this. So,
which one of you would like to answer this? Elena, I saw you nodding your head. I don't know if you would like to answer this one.
I would say that, of course, we have very different situations in Europe in terms of energy markets and also the pace of the energy transition, and perhaps also opportunities for young people to get involved in the policy making in their own national context. I think the Commission can be a facilitator. The Commission, especially even more in the current crisis context, is in constant dialogue with the Member States, with the relevant actors. But first, perhaps we would need to know more the specifics. So again, I think this is also, events like this one are an opportunity for us to learn more about the national context, and we are always available also to hear about specific needs and how we can help. There is funding, EU funding available. One thing perhaps I didn't mention before, it's actually that in our policies we can also promote prioritization of actions. And in latest packages relating to energy, we actually had in a dialogue, an open dialogue also with the Member States and all the relevant stakeholders, we have proposed several areas for prioritization. One area I look into in particular is actually energy poverty. So and even recently with this new plan that we have called Repower EU, we have even, let's say, promoted even more actions in resolving those problems to, for instance, your national recovery plans, which are also an opportunity for addressing the urgent reforms that are needed in your countries. So.
Thank you. Were there more questions? Hi, can you tell us your name, please, your country, and if your question is to someone in particular, could you please let us know who you're addressing your question to?
Sure, thanks. My name is Jairam J. from Germany, living in Munich. My question is mainly to Elena. First of all, really thanks. The DGNR is really represented in this event, at least from your comment, and also what we understand the role of DGNR is very, very important. But at least from our discussions over the last 10 weeks, we realize there is the need for the youth, the voice heard from the youth side is not really clearly represented among all the stakeholders in Europe, and especially from the Commission. This was one point we're also discussing. Maybe can you explain how DGNR is maybe planning or is currently to improve this role of youth in the policy-making scenario? We are not seeing much in the Madrid forum or Florence forum. We are not there. Mainly the old people are there. But we need more space there. We need seat there. And one more point. Maybe once we finalize our position paper, maybe among our group, can we come and present that in the DGNR? Is it possible to do that? Maybe you can support this.
Okay. So I think it's a learning process, but in terms of recognition of the importance of young people needs and involvement, I think that was done, I would say, already, if you want, as a start, from already at the level of our president, even establishing this year as the year of youth. And I hope that I cannot speak for the entire commission, of course. Maybe also the representation has more to say about that, but that was already great recognitions, I think, from at least for the commission side, and especially being aware of how the pandemic has actually impacted on you in particular. And in that respect, also thinking that initiatives like this one have happened online during the pandemic, where you were struggling on without many other problems. It's a great success. Of course, I said before, we'll be very happy to have you in Brussels or online as you see fit. I mean, to present your position paper and involve all the relevant colleagues that could engage with you for any possible follow-up. And for the rest, as I said, this event is also a great opportunity for me to learn about what else we can do, how we can improve this type of engagements. And I'm happy to bring back to my colleagues and to also my managers. And really thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. I think we had more questions on this side.
Hello, I'm Martina from Greece, and my question is for all the speakers, I think. So we heard a lot of emphasis being put on security of supply by everyone's speeches. So I was wondering which of the three pillars of security of supply is its institution valuing the most, and how do they make sure that youth is a part of their efforts in achieving it?
Which one of you would like to answer? Could you repeat the last part of your question?
Yes. How do its institutions make sure that youth is part of their strategy in achieving the pillar of security of supply they value the most?
Who would like to answer that?
I can perhaps, if you want, in terms of security of supply, I would say that it's crucial to guarantee that the energy transition at any time has got the energy needed at any specific moment. That's the very first, I would say, pillar of the security of supply. We should not start a process of transition without guaranteeing that there is a good ground floor for this change. Because when we are doing energy transition, you have many issues to tackle at the same time. So it's important that doing that, we assure all the time that the security of supply is guaranteed. That's the very first pillar. The second pillar is increase the number of energy that each country, each region, each place can produce. Because if you are having that concept, you can guarantee all the time that you have the impact on the people on the right way. The very first thing of security of supply is we need to bring from the outside the energy that we don't have capacity to create in our own place or in our own region or in our own country, which is part of the energy mix. Although if you have the possibility to have in the building, in the region or in the country, the build-up of energy mix, of a strong component of the energy mix, is crucial. That's why renewables. Renewables is basically the possibility that we have in each building, in each region, in each town, I would say, to make the difference. You can start by producing your own energy, perhaps not the overall energy, but if you start thinking that in my rooftop, I can have 10% of my energy or 20% of my energy, I'm part of the security of supply. I'm part of the energy system. So you should start yesterday if it's possible, because perhaps tomorrow it's too late. The third component, I would say, is make sure that you need to guarantee that this energy transition has, I would say, a strong component of, I would say, investigation, new change, new approach every time. Because when you are doing this, you are perhaps thinking more on the next 20 years and less on the next 20 days or the next 20 months. And that's, I would say, the three main pillars.
I would like to add, just because I think I would like a tone of criticism in my reply, not to any of us here, of course. Because the first time when I looked at the EU energy figures, which is an amazing report that the DG, and I think there's the one making it, that you really can see from where and from whom and to where the energy is coming in Europe. And the first time when I look at it, I panicked a bit. I saw it, and I saw the amount of imports that we had, and this was pre this year, right? So it was a few years back. And I looked at the amount of gas, the amount of everything that we were importing. I said, this is not possible. If something happens, which happened, we enter in a crisis, right? And so I think having pillar one is diversifying our portfolio is very important. And now we are made to do like political pressured deals with countries, but I'm not going to mention the name. But one of them already, you can go and watch the World Cup maybe tomorrow, maybe not. But this, we are going against you are talking about gender equality, and then we do deals with countries that they don't treat women like people, right? So where is our conscience behind this? Second point is that the second pillar is that we have, in the past, we started local, the world, and then we entered in the trend of globalization, right? So before we produced everything in our country, in our region, now we import and exchange and trade everything, from the smaller particle that goes from China to the US, from US to Europe, right? This has a gigantic energy footprint. And same with the gas, with the oil that comes from back and forth. So now we go again into the localization, which is actually having a PV panel in your rooftop. So that's the second pillar, I would say, which is localized energy sources, getting what we have, our local assets, which, here, for example, is We have hydro, wind, solar, and try to, minimize everything that comes from the outside with a greater cost, and of course, with other implications that I mentioned before.
Thank you. Do we have more questions? I don't know if we have time for questions. Do we have time? Okay.
Yes, I have a question. My name is Stanislav, and I'm from Slovakia, from Slovak Innovation and Energy Agency, also part of ENR. It's great to hear that our activities has such support from European Commission and also from the Portuguese government. There are two phrases that I will take from this discussion. First of them is taking risk, as Mr. Fernandes said before. It's really important to take risk not only with, let's say, phasing out the coal, but also with giving chance to the youth. And the other word I will take is the trust. So if you want to take risk, you have to have some level of trust in the youth. So my question is the older generation ready to pass the responsibility to hands of younger generation? And is there enough trust? And if it's not, how we can raise this trust, and also how European Youth Energy Network can contribute to this? And this is maybe a question for all of the panelists. Thank you.
Maybe I'll start. I mean, I would say that at least I will actually answer on a personal level. It's out of discussion for me. It's not a risk. Actually, it shouldn't be a risk. It should be perceived as a risk involving young people in our discussions into policy making. It should be considered as a reality is given, so I wouldn't say it as a risk at all. Actually, it's an added value, as I think we have tried to communicate to you, and it's very much needed. I also wanted to perhaps to comment on the work of the energy agencies, because try to respond to what was asked before. Because I think they play really a key role, especially being, in some cases, advising to citizens in the current context, and being able to provide this type of tips and advice that are needed to understand better also how the current context is impacting their daily life. For us, energy is an essential service that every citizen has to get access to. So, and in this, let's say, in the context of reducing and ending our dependence from Russia, and I would say from fossil fuels, who are the men responsible for the volatility that we have in our markets. The role of the energy agencies in advising also on different solutions, especially also on the energy efficiency, on the savings, on the, I'm diverting a bit from the answer, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity to say that, and also on the demand reduction efforts that those who can are asked to do. Also for those who can't actually reduce their demand because they don't have actually the means even to consume. We shouldn't forget about those in this crisis. For that, I think, and knowing that young people are also part of these key organizations that are acting at the local level, it's actually it's very positive, because I think you have also the opportunity to communicate to a broader range of people, part of the population than before.
What about the part about trust, Elena? I didn't hear your answer.
No. I mean, trust, I think it's important in every relation, and I would say even human relations in general. So, and I think the Commission, we always, including in the negotiations and in the relation we establish with the Member States and any relevant actor at any governance level, it's a key component. and it also it's always a working process. It's part of daily job to keep it alive and ensure that we are perceived as a trust institutions, and that we can really create long-standing trust relationships with all our partners and the actors we work with.
I would say that part of the trust is to talk clearly to the people and start the discussion without no black zones. For example, let me tell you one thing, which is for me a big discussion right now. Decarbonization is about, I would say, make efforts in all sectors, but the biggest effort should be on the mobility, on the transport front. Currently, 90% of our transport, our energy is basically fuel-based or fossil-based. That's basically what we are having right now. The decarbonization scenario, the 1.5 degrees target, to not increase that more than 1.5 degrees, we need to be sure that in 2050 we need to have some targets achieved. And that's clear. That's about climate change, that's about even our way of society has the chance to survive even. So that's important. But at the same time, we need to trust that we need all players doing the right things at the same time. If we want to pass let's say, this current situation where 90% of a key sector is still fossil fuel or fossil energy based, we need to be sure and to clearly talk to the people, saying that on a carbon neutral scenario, the fossil based will not be zero. If you go to the Energy Agency studies and forecasts, and if you cross that with the top 5 energy producers in the world, you find out that all of them, they have decarbonization plans in order to get the neutrality on 2050. And if you make a clear zoom, you can see that fossil fuels or fossil energy is still, even in that scenario, will be part of the mix, between 30 to 40% of the mix. In the transport sector, will be fuel-based on 2050 in a neutral scenario. The question is, to have those 30, 40% of the transport sector still using fuel or fossil-based energy, you need to have clear projects where carbon capture are guaranteed, where the decarbonization of the process is still going on, because in the end, we will have fossil fuels in our mix for decades ahead. And we need to make clear that in order to get the people trusting on us. Because if we are saying now that we are going to put completely outside of the matrix the fossil fuels or the fossil energy, sometimes we are putting in risk the energy transition. And let me tell you and give you my clear approach. Energy transition at this stage needs or natural gas or nuclear. In order to assure that we are going to do the right steps on the next 30 years, we need to have that clear. And we need, if we want to trust on the next generations and on the past generations, because that's important. It's important that the next generation perceive the past generation as a trustful generation. We were, or we are doing the things that can be done at this stage. Perhaps sometimes not with the fast way that they can be done. But it's important to make these kind of things clear, debate, create the debate, because with this debate perhaps we can create a scenario that perhaps in 2050 we will not need, or we will not need to have 30% of the energy on fossil-based energy, but perhaps with that debate we can reduce it, although we will not reduce it to zero. And this is a technical issue that we need to face and we need to discuss openly. And that's an important part of the trust aspect that perhaps you are making in your question.
More questions?
Okay, so hi, my name is Philip, and I come from land far, far away, running on coal, which is Poland. So first of all, a little bit of an advocem to what Mr. Fernandes has said. I was really intrigued when Politico had a contest on the most influential political figures that are helping in Europe in the green transition. The first one is Vladimir Putin, so that is really something that I hope that the crisis that we are in right now will help us to leave the crisis a little bit stronger, and it will actually help us to transition to greener energy. My question is actually connected to the policy paper that we are working in, and especially about the youth councils, because I have a feeling that when Mr. Minister was talking about, for example, about the energy mix of Portugal, the youth involvement in a discussion when you have around 60% of energy mix coming from renewables, it's a little bit easier rather than when we are in Poland. For example, I just checked the data, and the last 24 hours of electricity was generated around 80% from coal, so that's completely something different. So I was just curious, yeah, Poland definitely a black sheep, and it's literally with the emissions map. But I was just curious, what are your takes, or is it like maybe a point to throw out in the debate? How would you approach youth involvement in policy making in different states? Because as we hear, like North Macedonia, I'm really happy to see like different representations from different countries, so different takes, because we need to take this problem seriously on a European level. But I was curious, would you have any comments on how we should adapt the youth involvement in policy making? Should we more standardize it, but standardize it without leaving anyone behind, or showing more an example? Or what's your take on this? Thank you.
Elena, who would like to answer that? Okay.
Well, it's a well-known fact that it's the younger people who takes the message home, first of all. So we should that's what we were saying. That's not a trust issue or a risky issue. It's a well-known fact that we have to work together. So one of the roles of energy agencies, like ADENE or other agencies, including the European Energy Agency, should really be working on inclusion, on discussion with the younger people. Of course, that's why we are here today. We also know that we have very somehow square structures that we have to follow, but events like these are the first steps, so that we can start to work together, start to include youth on our work and on our inside the awareness, and I'm talking about energy agencies. So maybe it's the first step that we can work. And maybe in the future we can have a more inclusive networks, and it will be business as usual, working with the youth and not just for the youth.
Miguel, would you like to add something?
I think I'll be suspicious if I reply to this question. But I can add a few points, and I think that there's already a great job behind it on the paper. That you're doing. I'm not personally involved, so I think I can give still an outsider approach. It is important, I think, because so at the European level, right, we have the Commission at the very high level, and then the different states, and then different states work differently, and it's very important that youth is involved in all the steps, so at the very high level, so at the European level, at the national levels as well, of course, driving the national politics when according to the European policies, and also at the regional level, which there's a lot of impact coming from there as well, right? So policy from the European Commission take years to actually be implemented, right? And when we were talking about this energy communities policy, which was the RED 2, I think was 2018 or 17, the last one, and correct me if I'm saying something here, but I think it was this year. And we are in 2022, and in Portugal, we still don't have a proper energy community running without problems. So it takes a lot of time, right? So we have to be involved in the beginning and then helping on the countries as youth as well as the local ones, right? So in the European Commission, we'll go for all the languages, but then we actually have to translate this into our national cultures, you know. You're talking about Poland, which runs on coal. Portugal now doesn't run on coal. So it's completely different, the approach, also the geopolitics involved. And last but not least, again, what I was mentioning on getting into the regional level, different countries have different ways of also, you know, of managing the regions. And it's very important that we as youth, the local ones in those places, are also part of the decision process and implementation of such policies.
Okay, we have time. Oh yeah, go ahead, Elena.
Yeah. No, I want to mention that Poland is part of an EU initiative which is called Coal Regions in Transition. So Poland, as you perhaps know, had made a commitment to phase out coal-based production, and then in stages also closing down inefficient coal-fired power plants. And but what is important in this initiative is actually it comes, and this is a common problem across all regions who are involved in this initiative. It's the recognition that coal-based production is very inefficient in terms of providing to the economy of those regions. And I perfectly know also that in some countries like Poland, coal workers have a certain status in society, so it's very challenging to move from what has been, let's say, the figure of the coal worker in Poland, for instance, what could be, for instance, the future jobs that young people want to have in that region. We hear that young people in those regions, they don't want to be coal miners. And so it's about thinking a different economy, different opportunities based on the strengths and the weaknesses that are in those areas. And this is where the Commission is actually facilitating dialogue with all the relevant actors, but having particularly in mind the future of the young generations in those areas, because we don't want people, and I think also this is in the interest of your regional and national governments, we don't want people to leave those areas because they don't have any opportunity, they don't see actually how they could live there, how they could plan a future in somehow, let me say, failing communities, because there is no economic prospect for their future lives. So this is what we are working in, and I hope, and please let us know that you are also engaged in those dialogues.
Where are you from?
Poland.
Poland, yeah. I heard that, but countries like Poland, like Germany, and even other countries in Europe, they are having this issue of having a strong part of their energy mix, electricity mix, based on coal. Once again, yeah, but let me put it on that perspective. It's an opportunity also for the youngest generations. Currently, the number of products that we used with carbon are still small. If you go to the, I don't know if you like Formula 1 or the electric Formula 1 or those cars, 60%, I think 70% are now carbon-based. So the technology of producing a race car, because you want them light and fast, and by the way, if you are having an electric race car, Formula One is now having an electric Formula One competition, you want to have also environmental perspective, a right environmental perspective. But those cars are carbon-based. If you drive your car, I don't know if your father or you have a car, but if you drive it, I would say the utilization of carbon in that car, in that common car, is still very, very low. So countries like Poland, because you still have a big base of coal, and realistically, it's a trade between, I would say in your case, between renewables, coal or nuclear. That's basically, or natural gas, I would say. That's the trade-off. But taking in account that the big percentage is still coal-based, as you were saying, 80% of the energy that you are producing today in Poland are coal-based, perhaps for your generation is the moment to go to the political angle and say, why don't we start to create here a strong energy front, a strong dynamics on CCS projects. CCS stands for carbon capture and sequestration. So if you are producing carbon in your mix, the big opportunity for your generation is to push or pull, depending on the perspective, on new business, new technology or new innovations on CCS projects. So Poland could be a key player on carbon capture and sequestration of carbon technologies in order to incorporate that carbon that is being part of your issue right now becomes an opportunity. So you need to basically make sure that if you are still going to have carbon plants in the next 20 years, they should have a commitment to capture that carbon and bring it into the innovation and technology. So perhaps Poland can be one of the main producers of carbon products, carbon raw material to be incorporated in our new technologies. So that's the challenges that you have in front of you. Perhaps you will gain more on that side, pushing and pulling for that new opportunities, rather than say, let's stop the coal plant, let's close it tomorrow. Because realistically, the political decision would be, sorry, it's impossible. So it's part of your process, of your changing process. Drive the direction of the politicians that are in power right now, that are on the front stage, to start thinking on that. So putting the universities, putting the economy, thinking on that carbon issue as an opportunity for developing new products and new businesses.
Thank you so much for sharing different perspectives and how they can think of new ideas and new solutions. I don't think we have time for any more questions, do we? Just one more? Okay.
Hi, my name is Pedro. I'm Portuguese. Thank you for taking some time to share some of your wisdom with us. That's very important, obviously. My question, and it's a very fast one, mainly I want to understand, so we are a generation that it's not a generation in crisis, but we are living a series of crises simultaneously. And each time we think that we are living one, another one shows up. So that's starting to get the usual day-to-day for our generation. But at the same time, that can bring an important component that is resilience. So we are learning how to face different challenges at the same time. And I think that's important. Most of the times when I hear speeches, mainly speeches from CEOs, from presidents, they tell us, you are the best prepared generation right now. You are the best and the more educated generation ever. And at the same time, speaking to ourselves and to myself included, sometimes we see on the other end that we are youth activists, but as soon as we reach adulthood, we become status quo activists. So we forget that we were once young. So my question, and to finalize, and a bit provocative, if I may say, is, would you be able to have a boss with 24 years old, an expert with 24 years old, an expert with 25 years old? Do you think that quotas would work? So we've seen in the past, and maybe it's just missing some similarities, gender equality issues. Women had, I don't know, salary discrepancies, huge gaps, and they were, so at some time, they created quotas to diminish that gap. So do you think that could work? Are we going to see more young people as executive board members? That's my question. Thank you.
Which one of you would like to answer that?
I have no problem with age. I believe in hard work and expertise on the subjects. From the other side, I think that with 24 years old, you don't have the needed experience on the field to be on the front stage of these hard decisions, even though you should be involved and be near the persons that are at the front. I can share with you that I entered ADENE 5 years ago. I started with a scholarship and now I'm head of something. Believe me when I say that I'm here with a path with really hard work, and I'm where I want to be. I want to be here. I want to have this opportunity to contribute to the policy making on my country, and I'm really thankful for that. But I don't forget that I have a really hard path in the near future. Well, to sum up, I don't have problems with age. I really think that you have a path to go as well, as I'm making my path. Really hard work, study, follow the entities that you believe that are, I don't know, that are making a good contribution to your country. Follow them, interact with them, and challenge them, as we are here making this really first challenge.
I just want to say, because if it's possible or not, I'll give an example. I'm 25. I'm from EYEN, and I work for a private company, and I'm the lead of one of the teams in the company. And the youngest person on the team is 25, which is me, and I'm the lead. And I have 5 people working in my team that are all older than me from, I'm not going to say ages of people because age doesn't matter, but I would say that people that have twice my age that work in my team. And we don't have a problem, and everybody's happy. So just the provocative, as for me, I think it's possible. I'm doing it. So just to say that, and I think everyone here, is not about age, and again, it's about the hard work, which I say that when these people here, the group from EYEN took the challenge, most of them, to start EYEN, to work for this event. It's on top of 10-hour jobs, on top of a lot of work, do even more work and continue pushing our, our ideas, our possibilities, and our experience, and then we always can achieve it with hard work, of course, as well.
Yeah, passion and purpose. Would you like to add something?
Maybe, general advice is to do something, start something. You can also be the CEO of your own company. There are many possibilities offered by the startup world if you want, and you can really, be responsible. Or, as I was encouraging many of you before, maybe try a career also as an elected representative. We heard before how many different, let's say, type of organizations are active in Portugal, in your local community. You can, and this is also a way, I would say, to be. There were several calls on reality checks in this panel, I would say, and this is also a way a bit to be called on the reality of your community. So you have to know your community. You have to somehow be able to collect, support, engagement, and present views, have a vision perhaps, and also be impactful. This is also another way. There's not only perhaps the institutions and the organization we represent on this panel, if you want to be on the lead.
I think you tackle on the right point. A board management of a startup is normally people of your age. So it's a way to experiment for the very first time a board decision. But don't think that innovation starts on the board. You don't imagine, or you can imagine the number of hours that we, I would say, lose during our day on things that are not about innovation, about creativeness, about making things on a different way. And sometimes it's easier for a younger generation outside of the board to make things happen in terms of innovation or creativeness because they are outside of the, let's say, the top level of the company. But that's a good question. But startups are about young generation management responsibilities, I would say.
I know we're supposed to end, but yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, I'm a person of examples. So I would give another example now outside of the startups to show that's also possible. It goes more on the side of the Nordics in Europe, right? So if you see Denmark, they have in most of the boards of the energy companies, they are introducing the young component as well. One example. Second example, and I don't want to say this wrong, but I believe it's Sweden, that they have the youngest minister for climate action ever, which is, I think, 24, 25. So, just examples. I think it's possible, right? So, but contra-argumenting here a bit. It will depend on the culture. It will depend on how things are made. It's a process of change, but also depend, I believe, on the value of the person, right? On the value that anyone would bring, either if it's 24 or 42.
So out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody having like a reaction. I want to invite you on the stage. Come here. Let us know what you were thinking because you were so agitated. So I can't leave without giving you the microphone. If you're brave enough to come on stage, I see you are. So let us know your name, where you're from, and what's going on.
Thank you very much. Sorry for my emotions. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm Jeroen. And yeah, sorry, it triggered me a little bit because what you said is what I believe as well. We live in sort of a transitioning world, a world of transitions instead of one transition and then it's over. I mean, we're living in 5 at the same time. And that also means that we live, well, in crisis. And crisis usually, they need a quick fix. You need to respond fast. And our current system, I feel, is still based on, well, take the time to develop new ideas, new means for these ideas to first prove themselves over long amounts of time. And then once they're proven, we can use them and adopt them. And I think for a lot of these transitions or crises, whatever you want to call them, we don't have that time. We're saying it all the time. And still we ask these solutions to take the time to prove themselves over a long period. And the same for these people, for young people. They need to prove themselves in an organization for a long time. If they did that, well, then they can be at the executive. But then the problem has already disappeared for new problems, and we need the new people who can change those problems instead of having a stagnant system. So I think that's what triggered me. So I was wondering, do you agree to some extent on that, and how can we give these people who have these new ideas on these topics and these crises to still have a voice and a way to quickly change the system? Because even these young people that have new startups will still constantly, their biggest challenge is to challenge the system and the very often pretty maybe bureaucratic parts of the system that their new ideas need to prove themselves in the system again. So how can we help young people to at least be part of the system faster and join in faster on these critical levels?
I think even I would like to answer that question. And I'm not even from the energy sector. I'm from the communication sector. And let me tell you something. When I was your age, I didn't have a stage in my pocket. All of you have a stage in your pocket, if you understand what I say. So you don't need to wait for anyone. You could have your voice heard right now, this second. You know what I mean? Right? I don't know if anybody else wants to answer that, but that's my answer for him. Right? You guys say it.
Was any more? Yes. Okay.
It's a difficult question.
Yeah, I mean, okay, maybe you wouldn't like it, but actually our Vice President Timmermans from the Netherlands as a youth advisor who is, I guess, 23 years old. He's from the Fridays for Future movement from Belgium. So you see, so there is already someone in the board, at least in the commission. Then I think. And I'm happy to explain better, but we have also, I have many young colleagues. I mean, you know that there is also the traineeship opportunity that we have in the EU institutions are also a way to enter and also be part of that and be as much active as you want to be in the areas that are of your interest, for instance. And just maybe I would like to comment on the emergency measures again. So at least in the Commission views, and I think this is what we are trying to do also with the Member States, we actually have a two-sided approach. So there are measures and actions that are to be taken now, like in the very short term, but we shouldn't forget those are for which we have an impact in the medium and long term. So it's not everything is happening for the emergency, and there is also, you know, all the background that us and member states were building over years, and all the different conditions. So it's not only that we are hopefully acting on in terms of, you know, in a kind of defensive way in the emergency context. So yeah, just that we wanted.
The point that's exactly the point. Currently, your generation, you can, I think you made a very good point. 20 years ago, we don't need to go back to our grandparents. Even in our generation, when we were having a need to create awareness or make a point and make it public. In my times, when I was your age, the only possibility was to go to a newspaper or go to a TV broadcast channel or go to radio or try to have them listening to me. And the second thing, convince them that what I was saying was true, was a real issue. Currently, you can do it with your for free, and in that moment. So that is something that you have in your hands, which is a very powerful tool, and you should use it as is. That's the right thing, because the risk is sometimes you are creating an issue where there is no issue. Well, that's the risk, because 80-20, 80% of the times it's a crucial thing, needs to be hacked. Perhaps 20% of the cases, I would say, okay, it was a wrong position, or it could be another issue, I would say. But currently, we need to be fast right now. Yeah, we don't have any more decades to solve a problem. For example, this situation that we are having right now in Ukraine. The younger generations of Russia, they should act now, because they are destroying their next 10 years. And of course, they are destroying more, obviously, the other side of the board. I would say the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian young generations, they have many more difficulties than the other side of the board, young generations. But the situation right now is an issue for both sides. For both sides. They are entering into a black tunnel. Nobody knows what will happen this winter. The situation that we are having with a very cold winter will be an issue similar to what happened in Ukraine on the last century, on the decade of 30s and 20s. Millions of people died there due to the cold winter. And it can happen this year. And we need to act rapidly, because in 1 month time, it will be too late, or in 2 months time, it will be too late. So I agree with you, we need to be and to act fast. This climate change issue is the same thing. We need to act fast. We need to start doing the right steps on a faster way. We should be clear that this is about changing the mix components. It's not to have some mixed components to become zero in the next decade. It's not true if we have this speech. And the young generations, you need to be also convinced about this. That's why you need to be part of the discussion. You need to have access to the same numbers that we have. You need to have access to the same issues that we have in order to, you know, make your own vision, make your own ideas happening. Do it.
I want to say something. I'm going to stand up because I think it's a little bit lonely at the end, and I'll take over the end. It's just to say that the goal of EYEN itself, right, of the forum, is making and creating this step, right? The fact that you are here on stage, the fact that we are here, and we're going to be on stage on the next days, is the fact that we are creating this stage to participate in the transition, right? Either using social media, but either being here in front of the right people, discussing and putting our agendas forward. Of course, it's slow sometimes, I know. That's why I'm here next to you. And this is why we are creating, and we created this organization, and we are proud to have this event this year and the paper so that we can, you know, faster this process and be faster in the future as well with our responses. So I think that's in general a great job. And I think, Cindy, I don't want to take it over from you, but Guilherme is already on stage.
I will. Okay, so guys, just to finish, I'll leave a small provocation, nevertheless, being part of a big traditional company from the sector, that the barriers to enter this sector are not the same ones as, for example, the finance sector, fintech, being Revolut, for example, that has way more clients than any other bank in Portugal. So I think that when we compare, we do need to compare, but we do need to see the barriers of entry of each one of the industries. And having said this, we continue the talking during lunchtime. The lunch will be until 2:30. The doors for the exposition as well will be open if you want to visit during lunchtime. But please, let's try to be here at 2:30. Thank you.